Welcome back to today's broadcast. God bless you all in Jesus' name. Today we're going to be having a look at Justin Bieber, who we've covered before on this channel. So if you've watched some of my other videos, there may be a lot of redundancy, a lot of ground previously covered. But my hope and prayer is that these will reach people that my other videos have not. The right people. Fans of these people. And at first they may be skeptical, but if they take the time to look at other people featured in this series, it may click. You never know. Justin Bieber, I believe he got his break on YouTube, kind of making videos here on YouTube years ago. Could be wrong on that. Had a very public, media-driven conversion to Christianity and found himself at Hillsong, which we'll be looking at here today. But let's start off. Here he is as a boy. This was early in his career. Throwing up the 3 6s over his eyeball. Once again, Horace. I mean, are we noticing patterns? Are we noticing a theme? And here he is again as a young man. He's still a young man. Throwing up the sign of the horns, as Anton LaVey called it. A curse sign. Devil horns. You need to understand what the industry is. What drives it. The force behind it. And also the goals and objectives of the industry. Brainwashing. For you to accept sin as perfectly normal and okay. And as a byproduct, you'll reject Jesus. Even if you say you believe in Jesus. It's just the truth. I'm not sure at what age he was when this photo was snapped. I've done a lot of things in my life, a lot of things I'm not proud of. I need Jesus just like anyone. Just like Justin needs Jesus. Just like you watching this needs Jesus. I don't recall ever seeing this on a fashion rack and saying, you know what, that's totally me. Let me get this. I'll take the 666 sweatshirt, please. Nope. Never happened. More devil horns from our friend, Justin. God bless you, Justin. And here he is before he got heavily tattooed. Now he's got an eyeball on the inner elbow area on his left arm. So he chooses to get a tattoo of an owl. And those who are familiar know that there's a place out near San Francisco, actually, in the woods, called Bohemian Grove, where men of high esteem, men in the club, gather yearly before a giant owl statue to do the cremation of care ceremony. But beyond that, the owl is a general symbol for the Illuminati. It's the owl of Minerva. It's telling that Justin decided to get this as one of his earliest pieces of ink on his person. Drake has it across his chest. And of course, here he is on the cover of ID magazine, who they're just I hate to even use this term anymore, but they're an Illuminati outfit. I don't know what else to call them. They're a secret society, and they come from different covens and secret societies, but you may as well, for all intents and purposes, call them the Illuminati, because there is also a networked, concerted organization to it all. There's an understanding between one another, the initiates of Hollywood. And it's not just Hollywood. Music, movies. They're up on Main Street in your town. That checkerboard floor. Here's another one of a young Justin Bieber? You may be saying to yourself, if you're just now kind of checking this stuff out, well, he's young here. This is before he gave his life to Jesus in a very public manner and found himself at the doorstep of Carl Lentz at Hillsong, who may or may not be a Freemason. We'll do another video on him one day. Here he is with Miley Cyrus, someone else who grew up in Hollywood, essentially, who doesn't seem to be doing too well these days. None of these people who either grew up in Hollywood, they seem to fare the worst, or those who made it real big and it's years later. Not when you peek behind the veneer, anyway. So he's doing the vow of silence, Harpocrates. These statues you would find outside of the temple of Isis and Serapis. It warns the initiates to keep quiet. Here he is again. Now, at a minimum, we have 666s over the eyes. But it seems a little different in quality sometimes when I see this. Almost as though maybe they are referencing the owl again. There's another one of Jim Morrison where he's doing essentially this. And if you look at the way his hands are positioned, even it almost appears as though he makes a pyramid with his hands. But I wish this wasn't my life, dissecting all this. But ever since giving my life to Jesus Christ, this stuff has been literally placed on my doorstep to try to help other people see, because I know that for the particularly hard of heart, they won't see Jesus until they see that the devil's real. Young again. I guess we're in a theater, a library. Vow of silence. Harpocrates. This is on the cover of a magazine called Complex 10. I'm not familiar with it. I've never heard of it. But he's holding up a piece of meat to cover up his eyeball for a new twist, an artistic rendition of the Eye of Horus. And he also looks like he just got the crap beat out of him. Those who have been doing this research and have been documenting something they call the Black Eye Club, which I haven't been looking at too much. I think there's something to it, but I have my own focuses, because I feel like to open people's eyes, you have to start with the most obvious and allow them to then, if they're interested enough, if they're disturbed enough, they're eventually going to find their way there themselves. This is some form of kind of like acupuncture that they do, where they put these suctions on your back. But that's not why we're showing you this photo. It's because of the top two, where Justin's doing the one-eyed symbolism as always. And after a while, you start to realize, especially when you look at other people like Lady Gaga, who posts this stuff like this on her Instagram, who constantly throw this stuff up. And when you see it so universally done, you start to realize there's something more to this. It's not just there's more to it than just they all sold out to the devil. I believe in youth, they were served up to the devil, initiated as children. There's been Brad, there's been Angelina, but there was also Justin and Selena. The tabloids loved that one, huh? So here he is with, today, she's currently one of UNICEF's ambassadors, helps the children. And as we zoom in, we notice that the shirt that Selena is wearing has a 666 on it. And what makes this more disturbing is when you know that this photo was taken as they were leaving a hospital to lift the spirits of children. He consistently throws the stuff up more than most. Let's recline on the couch Throw up some horns. Why not? Oh, I'm sorry. Let's be technical. This doesn't belong in here because it would mean I love you, even though you would be facing the hand toward us. To be technical, since we have to be technical about these things. And I've just noticed this now. I'm not sure about the logo on his shirt, but from the angle that I have right now anyway, it looks like there's a one-eyed individual, John Mayer. And then there's a pyramid underneath John. It's always the same stuff, guys. Same stuff. Here he is, flashing up the devil horns while he hangs out with one of the Jonas brothers. This is Joe Jonas. Interestingly, his brother Kevin Jonas of the Jonas Brothers, can be seen here wearing a t-shirt with Aleister Crowley on it. Crowley called himself the Great Beast 666. He founded a religion called Thelema. He was a magician. His religion is sex magic. It's orgies. And you go through these different levels of initiation, and the higher levels of initiation are homosexual in nature. And who knows where it goes from there? Who knows? Nobody knows because they're secret societies. And yet they call themselves illuminated. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that funny? If you truly were illuminated, standing in truth, you would be totally transparent about what you're about, the practices you do. But there must be some shame involved. Something they don't want you to know. Now, the two men had a falling out. But this is his pastor, his Christian pastor, Carl Lentz of Hillsong, New York. And we're going to do an episode on him at another time. But we'll probably look at him again during this because I have photos of these two individuals together in the archive. But the story goes that Justin was looking for meaning in his life, and because he was raised Christian, he was looking more into that again, but was kind of put off by how he didn't really relate to most Christians, but he did when he found Hillsong. Imagine that. A worldly Hollywood child finds a home only in a particular Christian church, which has a more modern twist to what Jesus might have taught. I don't know, the Bible warns us. In the end times, many will come on the scene, many false apostles, many false prophets, that people with itching ears will seek out teachers for themselves that will essentially tell them what they want to hear. Confirmation bias, you might call it. But there's more to it than that. This was a highly publicized conversion without substance. Truly. Judge not lest you be judged, sir. My Bible says to judge righteously, and to not judge as a hypocrite. If you read down a little further, it says, do not cast your pearls before swine. Well, if I didn't make a judgment call, how would I know not to put my pearls before swine? Am I calling Justin swine? Am I calling Carl Lentz swine? I do believe that they're false converts, false teachers, here to literally cause God's sheep to stumble. I believe that. In light of everything that we're going to see today, especially photos of him after his so-called conversion, throwing up the same signs, same symbols, and more, that it's a mocking. And he does this a lot, actually. He's done this prayer pose quite often. So here's Carl with Justin and Lil Wayne. An apologist will say, well, Jesus told us to hang out with the lowly, right? But that was in the context of bringing people out of their sin, to bring them into the light of Christ. It wasn't as though, being with the lowly doesn't mean you go to the bar with the lowly. Doesn't mean you smoke a blunt with the lowly, right? It means you reach into their world and try to bring them up out of it. That's the meaning and purpose. And if you look at Lil Wayne's music, not godly at all. And he throws up all the familiar gang signs. And Carl Lentz is known as a pastor to the celebrities, to the stars, Jay-Z, and the list goes on. I smell a rat. How about you? And of course, we've seen these photos. This is again when they still had what you would call anyway, a pastoral relationship together. This is how they hung out like bros, essentially. So they're out and about, downing shots with one another. Friendship with the world is enmity with God. I mean, it is what it is. Looking very worldly. And it doesn't surprise me that this would be the kind of church, someone who really doesn't want to change much, wants to still live the same life they did, but to feel a false sense of I'm okay, I have eternal security, I'm following Jesus now. I can see them seeking out people like this, who offer you the Bible 2.0. I've included this before, but very disrespectful to come before an audience to talk about Jesus and brush your teeth during the entire thing. And here is Justin at a Hillsong conference, snapping some photos with his fans because he's an idol. But look at his shirt. Marilyn Manson is a self-proclaimed Satanist. He's mocking you. He's mocking you. And before we get to more recent photographs, here's another one of him in childhood, or as a younger man at least, throwing up the vow of silence. And here he is, post-conversion with his wife, which is at least a good thing, Haley Baldwin. But he's still flashing up the gang signs. Again, I don't believe that it's innocent, but even if it were, stop. Christians, stop flashing up all these signs and symbols. People that call themselves Christians, what are you doing? Here he is with post-conversion again, more devil horns, Again, same thing. Still throwing up the same signs and symbols, symptoms of a childhood of growing up in a very sick system. Let's ignore the fact that he's in an Eastern meditation pose or a yoga pose, but we're really looking at this just to show you how far he's come from that first little tattoo of the Owl of Minerva, of the so-called enlightened ones, on his arm. Just covered from head to toe in ink. It's a compulsion. It's like they can't stop scribbling on their bodies. And I think you can see it from here if we zoom into the elbow. Got like this giant eyeball, which he says is the eye of his mother, which is very telling because in paganism, I don't think he was referring to his natural mother. I think it was a wink wink. In paganism, it's always about goddess worship. So while we say Eye of Horus, and that's true, they're not so obsessive compulsive about it all. I call this one the Masonic coat tug, and you may think, oh, come on. But I tell you, when I see portraits of Aleister Crowley doing this exact same thing, and then all these other celebs who are throwing up all the same signs and symbols, communicating with one another, dupers delighting us all, keeping the spell going, I realize that almost everything they do in these photo shoots is an opportunity to throw up their affiliations and gang signs. Here he is as a young man again, flashing up the devil horns as usual. And here is a better photograph of the eyeball tattoo that he has on his elbow. And when you look into the research, tattooing, especially compulsive or extensive tattoo work, often is done in association with folks who have personality disorders, usually on the narcissistic spectrum. And that makes sense, because if someone doesn't feel like there's a whole lot that they have to offer inside, or maybe if they don't even like how they look, I'm not saying that that's true here, but maybe if there's that as well, they'll go to great lengths to decorate and adorn themselves to make them, it's almost like wearing peacock feathers, to give themselves more substance, and yet there's nothing there. There's nothing to that. They're complex individuals. They're a human soul. I'm not dissing him in that regard, but I'm saying that there is a connection between the two. And more devil horns / I love you from Justin, while he's sticking out his tongue as well. Kali. As if the paparazzi doesn't take enough photos of them, these celebrities always have these Instagram accounts where they're just taking selfies left and right, looking for self-gratification, self-affirmation. And they often do it like this, too. I don't know if it's a symptom of their programming. I don't know precisely. But they do this all the time. So here he is doing more one-eyed symbolism in a selfie. Now, these next two photos show you the sponsorship. Who is Justin Bieber brought to you by? It's the Masonic checkerboard. It's the boys on the square. More one-eyed selfies? Why not? It's Instagram. It's late at night. Need to update my believers. Here's a selfie with his wife Haley in the background, and Justin's doing a little vow of silence for you here in the photo. Are you yawning yet? More devil horns and what I see as a demonic manifestation. When I see them, when I see this generation of people who just, anytime the camera's around, they feel like they need to stick their tongue out like this all the time. Again, it looks a lot like the demon goddess Kali to me. And more tongue action for you. But there's more to this photo than that. What he's doing with his hand on his chin like this is called the Masonic penalty pose, right? Basically warning or reminding other initiates, sort of like the vow of silence. In this case, warning them that if they divulge the secrets of the Brotherhood, that they will be slit from ear to ear. Aleister Crowley posed like this at times. And Crowley was most definitely a highly decorated Freemason. Here he is in the regalia of someone in the 33rd degree. More devil horns from Justin. Brother, you need help. You need an exorcism from what I can see. And what Justin is doing here is known in Crowley's Ordo Templi Orientis, the OTO, as Osiris Risen. And it's also a pose that they do in Freemasonry. Because if you didn't know this, by the way, Freemasonry is your introduction to the occult. Every Freemason enters through the Blue Lodge, the first 3 degrees. And then if you want to go further, you can go into the York Rite, 13 degrees, or the Scottish Rite, 33 actually, degrees. And that's where you do the bulk of your occult initiations. Now, this seems like an innocent photo, run-of-the-mill, but it can be interpreted in 2 ways. Number one, if they point to their head like this, it means that they're indicating that they possess occult knowledge. Beyond that, it may very well be the Mark Master degree indication. as you can see here from the Masonic encyclopedias. Here he is in prayer pose again. I honestly don't know who he's praying to based on everything we've been looking at here today. It does appear to be a mocking. And also, can I point out that as a representative of Jesus Christ, to continuously get all this ink, putting all this money on your body is a really poor example to offer to other impressionable folks who you're literally targeting in this conversion event. Giving and providing the example that you can do basically what you want. You're under grace, not the law. And therefore, those things don't apply. You can do whatever you want, believe in Jesus, look like the world, and it's no biggie, no big deal. Finally, we have Justin striking a pose that's indicating that he is a quote, super excellent master mason. This comes from Richardson's encyclopedia. It's a constant barrage that they do in these photo ops, letting you know, letting others in the club know, the initiated. To the uninitiated, it's just another picture of Justin Bieber. But it's not. As always, Justin Bieber, if you ever were to come across this video, this is not personal. I pray that God bless your life, you and that of Carl Lentz. I'm worried and concerned that, based on what I've seen, that you're a wolf, however, right now. A deceiver. Providing a very poor example for others who are impressionable, who look up to you. And I don't think it's innocent or by chance. So if this is true, I would ask that you repent, sir. That you come into a relationship with Jesus Christ. That you pray to be born again. See the kingdom of God. Turn your back on this world. Leave Hollywood. Frankly, you really can't be doing what you're doing and not leave that industry, as satanic to the core as it is. So that's often the tell anyway. And start providing a true example for those who look up to you. God bless you in Jesus' name. And apologies to listeners for the lawnmower that was in the background sometimes. Grass was being cut. God bless everyone who watched this video in Jesus' name. Have a wonderful day.